Mars, the next frontier, or is it just a beautiful mirage? Our fascination with the red planet is as old as astronomy itself. We've romanticized it in literature, speculated about extraterrestrial life, and in recent decades even envisioned it as humanity's next address in the cosmos. The idea of colonizing Mars has become so embedded in our collective consciousness that it's almost taken for granted as the next logical step in human exploration. But is this really the case? Is Mars truly the next frontier? Or have we been lured by a beautiful, yet potentially misleading, mirage? In this video, we'll be challenging some of the popular myths about Mars colonization. We'll examine the realities, the tangible challenges, and the often overlooked implications of this grand endeavor. So strap in, keep an open mind, and prepare for a journey beyond the hype and into the heart of the Martian matter. Let's dive into the myths and realities of Mars colonization. Myth number 1. Mars is a hospitable environment for human life. Let's take a moment to imagine Mars, the fourth planet from our sun, often depicted as a second home for humanity. Mars's allure is undeniable, with its striking red appearance, intriguing geological features, and potential for scientific discovery. But beneath its captivating exterior lies an environment far from hospitable. The Martian atmosphere is a harsh mistress. It's incredibly thin, about 100 times less dense than Earth's. This lack of atmospheric pressure makes it impossible for humans to breathe without the aid of advanced life support systems. The air is predominantly carbon dioxide, with traces of nitrogen and argon, but virtually no oxygen. Simply put, you can't just step outside for a breath of fresh Martian air. And then there's the temperature. Mars is not a tropical paradise, to say the least. Temperatures can plummet to minus 140 degrees Fahrenheit at night, colder than the coldest winter night in Antarctica. Even on a warm summer day, you'd be lucky to experience temperatures akin to a brisk winter day on Earth. What's more, Mars is constantly bombarded by solar radiation. With a weak magnetic field and thin atmosphere, there's little to shield the surface from the sun's harmful rays. This poses another significant challenge for potential Martian settlers, as prolonged exposure to such high levels of radiation can lead to serious health issues. Moreover, dust storms on Mars are unlike anything we experience on Earth. They can engulf the entire planet, last for months, and make day seem like night. These storms could pose a threat to any electronics and machinery, not to mention the health risks for humans. The prospect of living on Mars, then, is not as simple as packing up a spaceship and setting up a new home. It would require tremendous technological advancements and a willingness to endure an environment far harsher than any found on Earth. So, Mars is not exactly the friendly neighbor it's often portrayed to be. Myth number 2. Colonizing Mars could solve Earth's overpopulation and resource scarcity issues. It's a tantalizing notion, isn't it? But the reality is far more complex. Let's start with the cost. Even with the most optimistic projections, moving a significant portion of Earth's population to Mars is astronomically expensive. We're talking about an operation that would dwarf any human endeavor in history, both in terms of cost and logistics. Then there's the issue of sustainability. Mars is not as resource-rich as Earth. We would need to bring or generate a lot of what we need to survive: water, oxygen, food, and more. This adds to the cost and complexity of the task. Lastly, there's the question of whether it's right to view another planet as an escape hatch for our own failures. Shouldn't we focus on fixing our problems here on Earth, rather than looking to flee them? Mars is not a band-aid solution for our planet's problems. Myth number 3. We have the technology to colonize Mars now. When it comes to space technology, we have made remarkable strides. From setting foot on the moon to launching probes into the far reaches of our solar system, we've certainly come a long way. But the leap from visiting to living is a giant one, especially when we talk about Mars. The first challenge is getting there. Current spacecraft can get us to Mars, but the journey takes around 7 months. That's 7 months of exposure to space radiation, 7 months of zero gravity, and 7 months of limited resources. And that's just the one-way trip. Then there's the matter of landing. Mars has a thin atmosphere, which means it's not robust enough to slow down a spacecraft for a safe landing. The Mars rovers, like Perseverance and Curiosity, had to use complex systems of parachutes and sky cranes to land safely. But these systems are designed for much smaller payloads, not a spacecraft carrying a crew of astronauts and all the supplies needed for survival. And once we're on Mars, we'd need to survive. Mars has an inhospitable environment. The temperature can drop to minus 80 degrees Celsius at night. The atmosphere is thin and mostly carbon dioxide with only a trace amount of oxygen. And there's the ever-present Martian dust, which is fine, sticky, and potentially harmful to human health and equipment. Moreover, we'd need to produce our own food, water, and oxygen. While experiments on the International Space Station have shown that it's possible to grow plants in space, we're far from having a sustainable agricultural system for Mars. And let's not forget about energy. We'd need a reliable source of power to run all the systems necessary for survival. Solar power is an option, but Mars's frequent dust storms could block the sun for days or even weeks. So, while we've made significant progress in space technology, there are still many obstacles to overcome before we can think about setting up a home on Mars. We're making strides, yes, but we're not quite there yet. Technologically, we're not quite ready to pack our bags for Mars. Myth number 4, colonizing Mars is economically feasible. Let's delve into the astronomical cost of Mars missions. The truth is, the financial burden of colonizing Mars is enormous. We're talking about billions, potentially trillions of dollars. And that's just to get there. Once we're on Mars, sustaining a colony would require a continuous stream of resources from Earth, a costly endeavor that would stretch our economies to their limits. Now, some argue that Mars colonization could pay for itself through mining or tourism, but let's be realistic. The cost of extracting and transporting resources from Mars to Earth would be exorbitant. As for tourism, the price tag for a Mars vacation would be out of reach for all but the wealthiest individuals. Compare this to the cost of solving problems here on Earth. With the same resources, we could tackle poverty, climate change, and a host of other pressing issues. It begs the question, are we looking to Mars as an escape, or are we avoiding the challenges we face at home? This isn't to say that space exploration doesn't have its merits. Scientific advances, technological innovation, and the sheer wonder of discovery are all valuable outcomes. But when it comes to colonizing Mars, the economic argument is far from convincing. The economics of Mars colonization simply don't add up. Myth number 5, Mars is our only option for space colonization. This statement isn't quite accurate. While Mars has been the poster child for space colonization, it's not the only celestial body we've set our sights on. Consider our very own moon, right on our celestial doorstep. It's a mere 3-day trip away with current technology. The moon's proximity to Earth makes it an ideal candidate for a space colony. Moreover, it's a great place for us to test the technologies and strategies we'll need for more distant colonization. However, the moon lacks an atmosphere and a magnetic field, making it susceptible to cosmic radiation, and its days and nights last about 2 weeks each, which could pose significant challenges. Then there's Venus, often referred to as Earth's evil twin. With a similar size, gravity, and composition to Earth, Venus might seem like a great alternative. However, its surface temperature is hot enough to melt lead, and its atmospheric pressure is 92 times that of Earth's, making it a less hospitable environment for humans. Let's not forget the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, like Titan and Europa, which may harbor subsurface oceans. These moons could serve as potential spots for colonization, but they're much farther away, and we still have much to learn about them. In conclusion, while Mars does present certain advantages for colonization, it's far from being our only option. So, let's debunk this myth, shall we? Mars is not the only game in town when it comes to space colonization. So, is Mars colonization a pipe dream? As we've journeyed through this cosmic discussion, we've unearthed some hard truths. The allure of the red planet is captivating, but beneath its crimson allure lies a host of challenges. Mars is not as hospitable as we might wish, with its thin atmosphere and radiation levels posing serious threats to human health. The notion that colonizing Mars could solve Earth's problems seems overly optimistic when we consider the massive technological and economic hurdles we must overcome. And while the progress made by companies like SpaceX is impressive, the technology needed for successful, large-scale colonization is not quite ready for prime time. Furthermore, the economic viability of such an endeavor remains questionable. Lastly, the idea that Mars is our only option discounts the vastness of space and the potential of other celestial bodies. Before we set our sights on Mars, it's crucial to understand the realities, not just the myths. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.